Do you like your valves bent or your pistons and heads beat to death? Of course not. That new cam you've been wanting is finally here and it's time for more power. But first, let's take a look at how to check valve to piston clearance to avoid carnage.
Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Kevin again with Yerkit Racing. We're back in the shop again today on the LT1 build. This time around we're going to try to get it buttoned up. So I'm going to throw you guys down here. We're going to go ahead and jump right in. I appreciate you following along, guys. Let's get it. Alright guys, so we're going to put a little Play-Doh up here in the valve reliefs on these pistons so we can check our valve to piston clearance. I usually do it the other way, but try this time, something a little different, see if we can do it a little quicker maybe.
Alright guys, so we're going to begin here by putting Play-Doh in the cylinders and then throwing the cylinder head back on using the stock hardware to tighten everything down. We left the gasket out for this part, which is a 40,000 compressed thickness. After that, we will adjust the rocker arms until they are all the travel's out of the plunger and the lifter body, making it basically a solid lifter setup. Once that's done, we'll roll the motor over a couple times by hand, and we will pull the heads back off to see if we have any marks in it in the Play-Doh.
Alright guys, so as you can see, the valve never even touched the Play-Doh. So I think we're good to go here. We got well more than enough clearance. If we never touch the valve down and all into it, then we ought not to have any issues. So that's going to do it for that part of it. I'm going to go ahead and keep going with the rest of the process.
Alright guys, so we ran into a little bit of an issue trying to check the clearances on this thing. I couldn't find my set of checker springs that I've had for a few years, so I found the packaging. They weren't in it for some reason. Ordered a new set, which should be in tomorrow. I wanted to get a little bit more done on the engine tonight though, so we kind of had to shift gears, get into the timing cover project, got everything cleaned up with that, got some clear coat put down on it, and got the new seals installed. Then we just ran a little bit of RTV around both sides of the gasket and we bolted it all to the block. After we did that, moved on to the oil pan. Nothing too special here, just a couple of dabs of RTV in the four corners where it meets the front and rear seal covers. Other than that, that's basically it. We threw the knock sensor back in it and the plugs for the galleys, and that was it. Okay, day two, we're still waiting on the checker springs, but in the meantime we're going to jump on this balancer, try to see if we can get that ready for install.
Alright guys, so it's the next day. Last night we came out to the shop and we got the timing cover put on the front of the engine. We moved on to the oil pan, got that final installed with the gasket in place. We installed the oil level switch and the knock sensor back into the block. I'm trying to think what else. We drove the new seals in the timing cover obviously before we installed that, cleaned the timing cover up the rest of the way, and shot it with a coat of clear. Since we had blasted it in the cabinet, we want to make sure that we have some sort of protective finish on it to keep from the pores in the aluminum absorbing any oil that might get down on it, make it a little easier to keep it clean. Now we're going to start assembling this ATI damper. We have to put the damper itself onto the hub. So to start with here, there's an alignment dowel, little dimple right there. So you know to align that with the hole on the balancer here that has, it's even labeled, it says the offset hole right there. So we will find our dimple and we will put that right there and give it a little persuasion. And then it comes with, it's 9 bolts that go into this thing, so it's quite a few. We'll go ahead and run those in now.
Be sure to use Loctite and torque these things to the proper spec, guys. You don't want it coming loose.
Alright, so now we're just taking and we're going around these 3 bolts we started. And we're just kind of walking the balancer down onto the hub nice and gently. It's not really it's not a press fit, but it's real close tolerances. So it doesn't take much force at all. You just kind of want to walk it down nice and easy. As long as you keep it fairly well centered, it'll just pull it down to it. Alright, so ATI wants us to torque the flathead bolts to 16 foot-pounds.
Be sure to have the right bit, guys. These are T40 Torx Plus, not regular T40 Torx.
Alright guys, so we got the damper torqued down onto the hub. We got to run to town. We got to get a keyway for the crankshaft so this can align on it, and we got to get some anti-seize to put on the shaft also, so help lubricate it a little bit and keep it from seizing on the shaft for removal in the future. So I'm gonna run over town, grab that stuff real quick, and we'll be back. Alright guys, so one thing I'm trying to do is clean this OptiSpark up a little bit. It was the factory style with that ugly yellow color, so I mean everything worked fine with it. I've had really good luck with the unit. I don't really want to mess with it, and I started to buy something different, but I've seen a lot of reviews over the years on some of the like MSD stuff that maybe people were having some issues with. I don't know if it was the setup they were doing on it or the product itself. So as long as this factory one is working like it has been for years, I'm gonna stick with it. So anyway, I just want to show y'all that. We're gonna clean it up though, try to make it look a little bit better. Got this, you know, everything's new up on the front of the engine there, so just want to make sure that this doesn't look as bad as it did anyway. So hopefully, not really sure what that, I guess it's some kind of resin, plastic resin or something. Hopefully the paint will stick to it and not give us a problem. But anyway, that's what we're doing. So alright guys, so that turned out pretty nice. Pretty happy with it. Definitely looks better than it did anyway, so anyway, we'll keep plugging away these things. Alright guys, so I got a little L-shaped piece of steel here that I had left over from something else. I'm just going to take and make us a piston stop out of this. Just a simple little deal.
Alright guys, so this is important for us to be able to verify our top dead center on our degree wheel. This will allow us to go 10 degrees before and after top dead center and really arrange up to it and check our clearances along the way, knowing that we have a true top dead center reference point to go from. So just take a simple piece of steel here, straighten it out, one we had left over from another project, drill a couple holes in the ends of it and one in the middle, weld a little nut to it so you can have it to screw a bolt down into at the stop, and that's basically it guys. Pretty simple and basic, but it does the job.
Alright guys, so we got our piston stop made and up here on top of the number 1 hole now, so we're just going to go ahead and verify our top dead center. All we're going to do is we're just going to come around until we stop there. That's 44 degrees, and we'll go the other way until we stop. Alright, so we come through, and it's actually 43 and a half. We'll go back the other way until it stops. Right there. Actually, we're at 46. Alright, so I moved it just a little bit, and that's going to give us 45. Come back around and check it again. 45 on either side. So now we have top dead center at 0. Alright, so our degree wheel is zeroed out with the crank now. So now we're just going back, take our tool back off. Alright guys, so now we're good to go ahead and put our checker springs back on our number 1 cylinder and give it a go, see how much valve to piston clearance we have. I think we'll be in good shape. We had a lot the last time I put it together. Pulled about 20 thousandths total out of it. So 10 thousandths from the thinner head gasket and another 10 that we cut off the head itself. So only reducing it really 20. We did put a different timing setup here, so I'm not exactly sure what that's done to it yet. But either way, we're going to go ahead, we're going to double check and confirm what we have for sure, and we will be good to go. So yeah, we're going to keep on. Go ahead and roll this back around to 0. There we go.
Alright guys, so just like before, we have put the head back on. This time we're going to be replacing the regular valve springs with some checker valve springs. They're lightweight so you can push them down. Once we get those in, we will adjust the rockers the same way we did earlier to 0, like bottom out the spring and the lifter bore. Now, once we have all that done, we will move on to the actual procedure. We're going to check the clearance at 10 degrees before top dead center on the exhaust stroke, on the exhaust side, and then 10 degrees after top dead center on our intake valve. So that's kind of what the idea is here. I'm going to sweep in a range of about 20 degrees. So for the exhaust, I probably go 20 degrees before top dead center to up to top dead center, and then for the intake I will do 20 degrees after top dead center back to 0.
Alright guys, so we got everything set up here to do the valve to piston clearance. We're going to start, I'm going to go ahead and check the intake side. I got everything set up on it. We're going to go to 10 degrees after top dead center, or thereabout. We're going to kind of work up to it, so I'm going to do it. So I'm probably going to go, that's at top dead center. $132 at 2 degrees. $126 at 4 degrees. 119 at 6 degrees. 116 at 8 degrees. 115 at 9. 115 at 10. 114 at 11. Alright guys, so ran through the process of checking valve to piston clearance. We ended up with 168 thousandths and on the exhaust and 114 on the intake. We have to add in the gasket thickness because we left it out of the equation. It's a 40 thousandths compressed thickness, so that'll give us 154 on the intake and 208 on the exhaust side. So we got plenty of clearance. That's not an issue for us at all. We're going to go ahead and move on to putting together the top end. So I'm going to swap the springs back out on these valves. We'll go ahead and throw the studs in it, and then we will put the head gaskets on the heads and go ahead with the intake. So we're getting close on this thing, guys. If you're enjoying the video, give us a thumbs up down below if you would. It really helps us get us out to more people. So greatly appreciated there. Subscribe to the channel so you can follow the rest of the build series with me. And yeah, we'll keep going.
While switching the number 1 cylinder springs back out, I decided it'd be a good idea to check the number 3 hole to make sure that there wasn't a difference. The number 1 hole was where we had put the replacement piston in, and just wanted to double check and confirm that the factory pistons had plenty of clearance. I figured they would, but it was worth double checking. So
15 at 90. All right, so 95 at 5 degrees. 91 at 8 degrees, or sorry, 7 degrees. 91 at 7. 90 at 9 degrees. 91 at 10. 92 at 11. 93 at 12. 96 at 13. All right, guys. So I wanted to double check the number 2 cylinder, which is one of the stock pistons. All the rest of them are stock other than the number 1. The first hole is the one we had to replace the piston on. I think the valve reliefs on that piston are a little bit larger than the other ones, so I just wanted to double check it. And what we came up with. So quite a bit of difference clearance-wise just on that valve relief change. So we got 140. We're still way over what we need. Really, 80 or above on the intake side should be fine. I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to verify this last exhaust one just so I got an actual number on it. I know we're way good on it. I think the exhaust on the other side was 208 on the number 1 hole. If it stays the same, we're going to probably lose about 25 thousandths of clearance. So anyway, we're going to double check it just so we know for sure. But all right, moving on to the next one.
Alright guys, y'all are truly awesome for following along with the build. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you for sure. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video so it can help spread to some more people. Again, I appreciate all the support. Subscribe for future updates, guys. And we will see you on the next one, which should be on the screen right about now. Later.